In the lead up to a major LAN event, there are often announcements from teams or proclamations from players that this will be their last tournament before they fold or leave competitive TF2. A lot of teams are built around the target of going to LAN, with performing there the main goal before moving on to different projects. Veteran players often see these events as an opportunity to go out with a bang, so to speak, before calling it quits and retiring from the competitive community. This summer saw a number of familiar faces talk about i63 possibly being the last time they would be competing in a TF2 tournament. However, talk is cheap, and the most common pattern after an iSeries event is that it in fact brings more people back to the game. Former players return to the community excited by the amazing matches they've witnessed at the event. Current players, who may have thought about quitting, are reinvigorated and are motivated to rise to a new challenge. i63 was no exception. Following the latest iSeries, a number of teams folded and others saw major changes. However, a lot of these changes were in a positive direction, leading many to believe the upcoming online seasons in North America and Europe could be some of the closest we've seen in years. With Seven and Froyotech dominating their respective regions, many thought that the tail end of 2018 could see some teams challenging them for the top spot. As we pass the halfway point in the season, nearing the playoffs, is this true? Have the seasons been close, or have the Titans continued their dominance? Starting with a look at ESEA, it's often hard to look past Froyotech as winners. They have been NA champions for 13 of the past 14 seasons, their only failure back in 2015. They also won the recent i63 tournament, as well as the past 2 Rewind LANs. However, they lost 2 key players following their triumph in Birmingham, veteran medic Shade and Soldier Yomps. They were replaced by Nursey, a former Froyo player, and AIM. However, a number of new teams turned up that could potentially challenge, one being Froyo Black. A number of roster switches, drama and discussions saw 4th placed Rewind side Swift NA lose their spot to this new team, featuring Shade. We also saw the return of Velocity Esports, the 4th placed team in Season 28, and Mentality Esports, featuring former Froyotech and Ascent player Paddy. Ascent were also in attendance, with relatively new organisation Feint rounding off the teams who were earmarked as potential contenders. In reality, things didn't run as smoothly as previously expected. Feint Gaming went through a number of roster changes, citing internal drama and conflict for the reasons for the team's eventual collapse. Ascent were forced to lose i55 winning Demoman Dewatna, replacing him with Marmaduke and causing a role shuffle on the roster. Mentality Esports, who had made 2 changes to their roster prior to the season, made 2 more, also citing cohesion issues, and bringing in former Feint medic Beradactyl. Omni5 Esports, returning to Invite this season after winning Intermediate in Season 28, also had to make a mid-season change, bringing up the total number of Invite roster changes to, well, a lot. What about the season itself? Ascent have struggled, losing heavily to the teams at the top of the table and struggling against those at the bottom. The top is shaping up to be rather familiar to last season, Velocity Esports occupying 4th just behind Mentality. And the battle at the very top? The first exchange between Froyotech and Froyo Black went the way of the latter. A 5-2 victory on Process saw a first map loss inflicted on Tumbani & Co since Season 25, when Bodonsky again dealt the damage with the same scoreline. This has been the only loss for either of these teams, leading many to believe that it will be simply a 2-horse race for the title. However, the battle for the playoff spots is still ongoing, with a number of teams still in with a shout of reaching the top 4. Heading over to Europe, and ETF2L saw a similar situation. 7 are the side to beat. This group of players have dominated the region for a long period of time, winning 6 straight titles after their maiden victory in Season 21, as well as winning both I-58 and I-61. After a short hiatus, they returned and added the last 2 seasons under their belt. Nevertheless, they had a number of changes following I-63, with double I-Series winners Captain and Raymond returning to the side, giving them a much more vintage look. The grand prize of tickets and rentals for next spring's Copenhagen Games saw a number of teams built to contend for the title. Former 7 players Ams, Drac and Credu joined Nursey for a comeback of Sauna Slayers, who were quickly picked up by Ascent. Swift EU saw a major roster reshuffle following their 3rd place showing at I-63, keeping Smira but bringing back the likes of Polygon, who helped the org win Season 28. Feint Gaming, promoted as Division 1 champions, picked up former Ascent soldier Korvac, but kept the majority of the roster that finished top 6 at LAN, retaining former Premiership champions Ali and Seeds. Elsewhere, Aura Electro picked up Papi and Marosh after a strong showing at I-Series, while Ver das Liest ist Doof, excuse my pronunciation, boast former Epsilon gamers Shocky and Warherrier. With all of that in mind, Season 31 has had a lot to offer so far. Both Nunya and the Fellowship folded before the end of the season, in weeks 2 and 5 respectively, leaving only 6 teams to compete for the playoffs, limiting them to 5 matches each. Game-wise, 7 has dropped points not once, but twice, having to come back from 2-0 down against Aura Electro to win a 3-2 golden cap, and a week later dropping a map to Ascent EU, the first time they've lost a map in the regular season for 2 campaigns. This has come during a time where injury has limited leader Cadus' appearances, with Domo subbing in for the season so far. So are Ascent the biggest challengers to the throne? It's not been smooth sailing for them either, losing a map to Swift in the first week, in the closest matchup of the campaign so far. They've also had a roster change. Nursey decided to focus on the NA season, with the side picking up Connor from the recent collapsed Nunya roster. Feint have looked solid, but a potentially crucial final match against Swift could dictate who takes the 3rd spot, with both the Germans and Aura tantalizingly close behind. The facts are there. As we draw closer to the playoffs, in both regions the usual faces will be there for the knockout phase. Those joining them is, as yet, undecided, but so far the results indicate it won't be smooth sailing for either of the continental behemoths of TF2. Thanks for watching everyone, and if you'd like to see more videos about the current goings on of competitive TF2, let me know in the comments.